Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, rise and shine. This is the Frank stand. This is with Todd Campbell over here.
How you doing today?
Like Campbell noodle cereal, Campbell chicken noodle soup right over here, man. And Mr. Todd Campbell, I wanted to ask you, sir, how did your Iowa days shape who you turned out to be as a cattle farmer, maybe as a mortgage person?
My grandfather served in Iowa, so my family was in agriculture. I didn't start in agriculture until about 12 or 13 years ago as a hobby, learning how to grow vegetables. So then I came to Florida, and my decision to do what I do now was instrumental for the people I met that asked me to come work at an institution in 1985.
1985. So being back in Iowa, was there any influences around there that motivated you to go into the field you're into now?
No, it was just the hereditary experience that my family had, maybe had been bred into my blood.
Yeah.
And it was simply a hobby. And the whole objective as a pilot program in starting the ranching was in the agriculture and growing vegetables was to be able to live off the land. If you go back into the 1929 era, into the 30s, what happened, a lot of people had victory farms, so they had to move out into rural areas and learn how to grow and survive on the environment.
Whoa, that's a lot to survive in the environment.
Yes, and be able to grow your own food.
Yeah.
So for me, I became a organic certified farmer by the USDA as a pilot program. We grew organic vegetables, and they were of course sold through local stores. And this is all, as more or less a pilot program. In addition to that, the organic cattle farming, growing cattle that are naturally fed, grass-fed, no vaccinations, no hormones, just grass-fed cattle with a uniform style. So it was more like, as I mentioned, more like a pilot program, but they're wonderful animals. You're welcome to come out to the ranch and see the cows and feed them. We do feed them cookies. They'll eat cookies and all sorts of natural stuff, but they're primarily grass-fed cattle.
Whoa. And speaking of like a uniform life, I saw in your office you have a bunch of murals of yourself as a water skier and kind of like a cool P.T. Barnum, Evel Knievel lad. Growing up, were you always a guy who was pretty extroverted and out there, or did it take a while to get into that character?
So in my childhood years, I was very active in sports, baseball, football, tennis, and tournament water skiing. So I grew up on a chain of lakes in an area, Akron, Ohio, called the Portage Lakes, which is Green Township, East Franklin District. So growing up on a chain of lakes, you tend to get into water skiing, which was a very popular sport in Ohio in the 70s and 80s. So in that time frame, I became a tournament water skier and a hobby skier, and it was quite enjoyable for a lot of years. We jumped, tricked, slalom barefoot, and it was a very healthy environment besides other sports.
Yeah, it sounds like an 80s dream to be in that environment where you get to be out spelunking into the water, enjoying the vitamin D from the sun. It sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and of course in the wintertime, we, in the wintertime, excuse me.
No, you're good.
We just,
let them out, let them throw.
Well, they're just making noise. So, in the wintertime it became cold, and I water skied in the wintertime with a wetsuit. So during those time frames, the lakes were like glass. So if you understand water skiing, which was a great sport, water skiing water skiing is a very healthy sport, and it helps you, keeps you in very good physical shape.
Yeah.
It really does. The only problem is a lot of people get injuries from the water sports.
Of course, it's natural. It's a natural routine.
So these are our what do you call it, kind of dogs here for the
Or mascots.
Mascots, right, yeah. So go ahead, sir.
No, you're good. It sounds like, speaking of the 1980s, I was delving into your catalog of content, and it sounds like you're a huge fan of Foreigner, Styx, and Deep Purple concerts. How fundamental does music play in your life?
Wow. Well, if you look at a couple of pictures up there, you'll see some pictures of me on the drum sets way up.
Would it be all right if I can pan around?
Of course, yeah. See the drum sets up there. I was played in a band and in the rock and roll era of the '80s, and the one up a little higher is so.
Wow. You're like John Bonham on those drums. Holy guacamole.
It was a lot of fun. Music is a very healthy sport, or healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
Music is a healthy environment. In any case, so being interested in music is a very healthy thing to have in your life. It can affect your emotions and help calm you and do a lot of different things. So music is a wonderful, and in college I took vocal lessons and music in college at Akron University in Ohio.
Wow. And in those Akron days, is that where you fell in love with Foreigner and Styx and Deep Purple?
Oh, absolutely. Foreigner, Styx, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, ZZ Top. And if you understand Ohio, it was considered the music capital of the world.
Yeah.
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located in Cleveland, Ohio. So music is a very important part. A lot of great bands came out of Ohio. The Pretenders, Michael Stanley Band, Devo, all those bands. I mean, maybe it's not something you may remember, but music was a really interesting time in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, the music that was produced.
And also, ladies and gentlemen, just in case we cut out earlier, this is the Frank Stan Show. This is Todd Campbell. We may have had a glitch earlier, but this is Todd Campbell at Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup. And we're back on the show. He does mortgage life and also little cattle farming on the side. But to segue back to earlier questions about being a cattle farmer, it sounds like you take great promise in being prepared. And how can youngsters in the cattle industry be better prepared for the life of a cattle farmer?
It is important for people to understand that the major industry in the United States is agriculture. So being a rancher, it's a hard life, it's a tough life, but it is living the dream. Being on a horse, having these wonderful animals in your life, being out in the wild blue yonder, the actual, the country, and being in nature.
Yeah.
So it's a very healthy environment, and it is a very important and integral part of our system. Now, not that I condone the killing of cattle, but they're an integral part for medicines, clothes, gelatins, food, and all sorts of needs when it comes to cattle. Even though we don't want to think about animals, it's very important. Buffalo roamed this continent for hundreds of years and actually improved the environment.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
So what happens is animals, when they're eating the forage, they're actually tearing up the ground with their feet. And of course, the manure gets ground into the soil, and it more or less cultivates the soil and allows the soil to continue to grow and improve. And actually, cows are used for foraging to clean out certain areas, such as Highlander cows, which eat just about everything. Mm-hmm. And most cows eat any kind of forage, any kind of grain forage.
A lot of grain forage.
Yes, and it grows like crazy. So, but it's actually very healthy for the animals to eat forage. Most of the feedlots that produce cattle, they take a baby that's maybe 200, 300, 400 pounds and put it on antibiotics, hormones. They put a pellet behind the ear, and then they feed it throughout their lives, just silage. And that silage will produce more omega-6s in the meat versus omega-3s. So a grass-fed cow will have mostly omega-3s in the meat. and the when it's and in the animal itself. It's
Yeah.
a much healthier, way to eat if you're going to eat beef.
Is there like an omega battle? Is 1-3 better than the other, or are they kind of just different?
Well, both are important, but if you see all the seed oils and if you understand nutrition, there's all this talk about all these Wesson oil and seed oils. If you look at a lot of the foods, most of them are produced with, as a filler, soybean oil, vegetable oils, sunflower oil. All those oils are omega-6s, which are unhealthy. Omega-3s come from fish oil and certain types of food and vegetables. So in your body, most people have too much omega-6s, but the natural beef and the natural vegetables and the certain foods such as fish oils, you're producing omega-3s, which is much more healthy.
Whoa, did not know that. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to balance your omegas, all right? You gotta look out for those omegas, man. They're omega important in your life.
And you wonder why cancer and all these things are happening in our environment with people, the foods that they're eating, the processed foods. The best foods to eat are your natural organic vegetables and your healthy meats. And not too many carbohydrates.
Not too many carbs. Watch those pastas and bread, all right? I'm telling you. Anyway, I speaking of things that are like kind of spontaneous, I saw on your YouTube channel you were hundreds of feet in the air in the sky in a helicopter. What was that experience like to be up so far up in the sky?
Some of my friends and clients have private helicopters, so we fly to Key Largo for lunch on occasion, and we're able to see the whole skyline and go through Miami like on a nice day like this and land in the Keys and have a nice lunch. It's a great experience. It's very interesting to see property from above and see how beautiful the ocean is and the Keys, and it's a great experience. I actually have multiple videos of that experience that I can provide if necessary.
It looked awesome. It looked like a lot of fun. And speaking of the past when you were traveling, 11 years ago, you had a Kubota tractor that you illustrated using a 100 horsepower tractor. It was capable of lifting, as you wrote, 3 telephone poles at the same time. And it's a pretty hefty feat. How long did it take for you to learn all these tricks and facts about all these machines?
So growing up in the mechanical era as a mechanic in high school, and we used to do custom paint and body work, have a website for that. I learned the mechanical ability to run equipment at a very young age. But on the other hand, there is Kubota equipment, which is wonderful equipment. And there's a couple of dealerships here in Florida Coast Equipment, and my salesperson was very helpful. Now, how I really learned the agriculture was from a local farmer who taught me a lot of little tricks. How to run equipment a little bit better, how to till the soil, how to grow certain things. And it's always good to take on the experience of an older farmer that has the knowledge in agriculture.
All righty. See, knowledge is important. If you got something to share it, pass it on, ladies and gentlemen.
On another note, YouTube and various, as you've mentioned, you can learn a lot from YouTube versus reading and experiencing things. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. And you're a unique case of mortgage man and soul of the earth cattleman. How can people like you turn hobbies into reality? Like, what was that trigger that pushed you into finally wanting to maybe be a cattle rancher?
Tremendous drive and the enthusiasm to learn and be successful. So, again, the objective back in 2013 was learning how to live off the land, such as the Victory Farms, and the ability to live on your own. So it's very important to understand where our food comes from and what it takes to produce food. So learning how to self-sustain, I think, is important because you never know when you're going to need to produce your own food.
Yeah, you never do know. It can happen any moment where a tragedy happens and you have to raise on your own cat or your own life. That's a good point. I mean, I remember you told me that you were raising, you were with a group of elders and you guys were preparing. I don't know if you told me, is that correct? You like to meet with a group of folks and talk about the preparing for like doomsday or something like that. I don't know if that was correct.
Well, if you remember, there was a show back in the 20 years ago, 15 years ago called Doomsday Preppers, and it more or less taught people. The show was very interesting because people would learn how to do different things, like living, out. Most people in America have been provided a wonderful luxury of everything at their fingertips because it's the United States of America, the greatest country in the world, producing products. So you can walk into the grocery store and get whatever you want. You can go to a restaurant and get whatever you want.
Yeah. Doomsday prepping, I feel like that's something that went over everyone's head. I feel like it's something that we should all expand and learn more about because you never know, like, not saying a zombie apocalypse will happen, but you should always be prepared.
Absolutely, and if you see what's happening in agriculture, it's mostly big factory farming and they're taking up a lot of the land. And America's major, the number one industry in the United States has always been agriculture. And now it's becoming factory farmed and it's very tough. So over the next several years, you're going to see a lot of the average farmer's age is in their 60s.
Whoa, that's a huge dichotomy
So
difference.
what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of these farms changing hands because most of the younger generation doesn't want to go into that hard labor to produce food, and it's very difficult. But it is important.
Speaking of things that are important, if you were a farm instrument, which one do you think you'd be?
Probably a tractor.
Probably a tractor, okay.
Look, pick that one up right there. You see that little tractor?
Wow, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a tractor right over here.
That is cool. That is a model of an Ellis-Chalmers Deutsch tractor from the 1950s.
Wow. It's groovy, man. Holy guacamole.
So, tractors are fun to run.
All right, and if you could go back in time and work agriculture in a time period, where would you go back in time?
Wow, that's a big question.
Feel free to take your time and think about it. There's so many, like the Revolutionary War. Would you go back to the Stone Age, maybe Egypt? There's so many different areas.
I would say during the time my grandparents were in agriculture back in the 30s and 40s, because it was an important time to produce food. Although it was much more difficult once heavy equipment became more prevalent with attachments to help. The people that did the farming by hand they became less important. And now it's most agriculture is done by, other than the picking and production of checking, it's mostly done by heavy equipment now.
Heavy equipment. And speaking of going back in time, you released a very Mr. Rogers friendly video of the tour of your office. The video was around 13 years ago. And now present day, why do you think folks should keep their eyes out peeled for a service like Federated Mortgage Services?
Because of how things have lost the personal interaction. Because people anymore just go on the computer, there's no contact with a person. And financing is one of the most important parts of any transaction. So you need somebody with experience and knowledge that has integrity that will help you structure your transactions and help you understand. So the personal interaction, I think, is very important. So if people don't have the time, or we work by Zoom meetings and stuff like that, but I think it is important to have an office space where people can come and visit and meet who you're doing business with.
Yeah, it's nice, like that personal touch, like you said. It's like, rather than having like a HAL 3000 show you like, oh, this is how you structure mortgage, having a Todd Campbell sit down from across the street, show you about Federated Mortgage, about how to save your time and your money and your energy, I feel like that does wonders.
Yeah, it's important. It's a big investment, and when people are borrowing money, and I think it's very important, yeah, to have that personal interaction. And also, we lack integrity in the world we live in today, and knowledge. Most people want to just go to ChatGPT or some sort of another way to get information.
That's so true.
They really do, because back in the day when in the 70s and 80s, people had a map. They had a roll of quarters, and they would make appointments and see people personally. But due to the time constraints and what's happening now with people, they don't, everybody's in a hurry. Everything has to be done quick, and they want everything now. They get tired of waiting for their food. They're at a traffic light, they honk the horn. Everybody's impatient. Everybody's aggravated.
And before we cut out, we were talking about the urgency everyone has nowadays. It's like there was a fire under everyone's seats. And like, what has really changed from now to back then?
It's a subliminal seduction of people and their lives with the internet, such as Facebook and all these things we have. They're subliminally affecting our ability. Plus, we've become this urgent society. And just remember, urgency, people tend to forget this. Urgency creates stress. So when you're at a traffic light and you have an appointment and you're rushing to get to an appointment, your blood pressure goes up, or if somebody cuts you off, and it's just not a healthy way of living now, because everybody's in a hurry. So we become all affected by the surroundings and the stress. So there's this very stressful environment we're living in today.
That environment, man. And speaking of environment, how did we talked about using Federated Mortgage Services, but how did the magic of mortgage life grab you? Was it growing up playing Monopoly with your pals, a group you were around here? How did it come across you, would you say?
So I was a tennis pro in the 80s, and an elder or a personal friend of the family asked me to get my real estate license. And then they asked me to come work for their bank. This bank was in 1985, Commonwealth Savings and Loan, which is a...
Feel free to take that if you need to.
Which is a Commonwealth Savings and Loan, which is was a savings and loan at the time where I obtained my education. So they asked me to come work at the bank, and that's how I got started.
Whoa! And I mean, as soon as you got started, was it like a while to hop into the groove of things? Like, would you say you're a fast learner, or did it take a lot of osmosis in the beginning
Tremendous stages? Effort and time and energy, 10, 12, 18 hours a day. So when you work for an institution, it is a highly regulated institution, meaning when you're dealing with money, it's highly regulated.
Yeah.
So you have to learn a lot. It's not like these mortgage people and these people that become real estate agents and do mortgages that don't have the experience. So the training is what's important, because when you're dealing with a highly regulated industry, it's, you make a mistake, it's no pass go, directly to jail.
Whoa, no pass go, directly to jail.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So in other words, when you work for a bank, you have to follow certain rules. For example, my company, we are a licensed lender. So we have audited financial statements. You have to have fingerprints, background checks, and all sorts of regulatory requirements, because you're dealing with money and you're dealing with large institutions that are highly regulated by the federal government and the various entities, the FDA, the various regulatory requirements.
Wow. So you work directly through the government?
No, the government regulates institutions in lending, the state and the federal government. So when you, let's say that you, for example, I do a mortgage through lender A or B, whether it be Rocket Mortgage or Bank America, I have to meet certain restrictions, and when I prepare the transaction and provide them with with their financing, we have to follow certain policies and procedures, disclosures, and and stuff like that. So, it's it's not just shuffling a few papers.
Right. It's like playing with the people's lives of their financial security. You gotta
Yes,
really
I mean, you have to, as you may know, in history, a lot of people have gone to jail for various things that have to do with financing and not following the rules of the institutions. So, for example, when I originate a loan and I back it, I sign off on it, I sell it to an institution, and then they own it. If I made a mistake or I committed anything fraudulent, I could have to buy back that loan and own it for the duration of its term.
Wow. So it's a lot of crossing a lot of T's and I's. You got to really watch out for every move you do, because you never know, like, it could be your responsibility.
Like, for example, signing a document. A lot of people will fraudulently sign documents and submit them to institutions. You can't do that.
Right.
If you do, and they find out or something, you could have to buy back the loan or go to jail for it.
Holy guacamole.
So financing is a highly regulated industry when it comes to mortgage financing or any type of credit cards, car payments, anything of that nature.
Wow. All right, I'll keep that in mind. And you asked a very fundamental question at your commercial and residential lending, evaluating and calculating cap rates video. I don't know if you recall it. And the video was back on April 10th in 2023. You asked the Zoom crowd what their view is on the current market conditions in the real estate market for commercial real estate. It's been nearly 3 years since. How does that market look like to you now?
I would say that realistic values are coming into play, more or less, meaning that a lot of things were very overpriced. Everything's very overpriced. All the asset prices, houses, cars, everything you buy. Houses, commercial buildings, stocks, we're in a big bubble at this time.
I mean, that bubble, how prevalent is it now today? Is it still growing, or is it shrunk a little bit?
Actually, property values in certain specific locations are declining. They're becoming more realistic. So let me explain why that happened.
Yeah, please.
Back in 2020, we had the pandemic, right? So at that time, there was free money. The government flooded the system, and that's how the system works. The more money they put into the system, asset prices go up. So we're coming off of a huge influx of cash that filled. That's why you see everything so expensive.
Whoa. And I mean, because I'm not much of a real estate and financial person. Like, I didn't play too much Monopoly, so I'm not too aware of a lot of like the economic aspect of what you guys do. But I think it's so important that everyone should learn something like that, because, like you said, with the rise of real estate right now going up or sometimes going down, what are some things that folks should be looking out for that you think makes the most sense regarding affording property?
So if you're referring to buying a home or you're referring to investing, there's multiple different how the question could be answered. So if you're investing, you have to look long term, and you have to look at if a property is paying for itself. For example, during that class I taught, I was explaining to the agents that they need to know how to calculate what a property actually makes.
Okay.
It's called a return on investment, ROI. So on the commercial side, you have to look at these properties as if you are creating an empire without paying tax on it.
Whoa!
So if you look back at our president, for example, Mr. Trump, he became very wealthy in real estate development. So when you invest in real estate for the long term, you're creating an empire without paying tax on it. So in other words, when you buy a piece of property, you have depreciation, you have write-offs, you have cash flows. And those properties over the long period of time, eventually you look back and say, wow, 20 years ago I bought this property. Now it's maybe worth the same or more, but it's more or less paid for. Okay? So that's a whole separate part of investing.
Yeah.
So you see these wealthy people that own all these big buildings, you're like, well, geez, how did they do that? They started a long time ago. But see, when you own real estate, you typically the rents come in, but you don't really pay a lot of tax because you have a lot of write-offs.
Right.
So over time, what's happening is you're creating a huge tax implication, because say you buy the property for $1 million, and then 20 years from now it's worth $3 million, and then you depreciate it down to zero, you have a tax implication of $3 million.
So those $3 million, what exactly does depreciation mean? I'm very new to it.
So the government has allowed a long-term depreciation schedule, meaning let's say you make improvements, you can add those improvements, a refrigerator, a new roof, all those become depreciable over a certain period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So as you add expenses and you work off of the cash flows, so depreciation means that when you buy something for $1 million, each year that you own it, the government allows a certain amount of depreciation based upon the purchase price.
Whoa, that's pretty good for your wallet.
Right,
Wow.
because you are moving your tax implications to a later date, making money off of the government because you're holding the money now.
Mm-hmm.
That time value of money, it's called time value of money. If I have $100 in my bank account today, and I'm able to hold on to it versus paying 30% of it to the government, then having $70, that means that I'm able to earn money on that $100 over that next 20 years.
Oh my gosh. So what's the difference between that depreciation and also equity? Are they the same terminology or are they totally different?
So $1 million property, you put $200,000 down, you've got $200,000 equity when you buy it. Maybe more, maybe less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So equity, it's called equity attrition. That means that property, as it goes up in value, you are increasing your equity, and as the mortgage pays down, you're increasing your equity position.
Whoa, so when you pay...
Because mortgages have what you call a depreciation, they have principal reduction.
Right.
So if you're familiar with an amortization schedule, you pay a little bit and then a little more over time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether you do a 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40-year amortization,
Right.
each payment you make, it slowly reduces the principal.
Whoa, so
Okay.
that principal, so that equity you put in and you pay off the mortgage, you said it goes back into your equity, or how would you put it?
So when you're making that payment,
Okay.
that small portion of principal each month increases over time. So that's in the property.
It's in the property, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So just like a car loan or a credit card or whatever, so you have to remember the time value of money.
Yeah.
Remember, today, $100 is worth more to you
Mm-hmm.
than it will be 10 years from now.
That's surprising to me. Like, wouldn't the $100 rise with ROI, or does it just stay $100?
$100 is $100. Has nothing to do with the equity of the property.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
So that $100 that you have in your bank account, if you get 3 or 4% interest on it, it's increasing, but you have to pay tax on it. You understand how that works?
So you can keep the $100, but you have to pay tax on it?
So if you have $100 you put in the bank today and they pay you 2% interest,
Okay.
you're getting 2%. So it's increasing at at $20 per year or whatever, or $2 per year. So my point is that when you put money in the bank,
Yeah.
if you are earning interest,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to consider inflation too, because that $100 is decreasing in value over time.
All right.
It's a lot to know. It's a little
Yeah.
complicated.
I mean, I guess they don't teach us this in school, but are there...
There's no school for what I do.
Yeah.
It's time and experience working for an institution or learning from somebody. Okay? So anyway, back to the housing thing. Let me answer that
Yeah,
question.
please, of course.
So you're buying a house, you're creating equity, same principle, but you have to understand when you own a home, there's many more unforeseen expenses. So a lot of people decide that it makes more sense to rent at this time because the average sales price of a home is about $400,000, which is very expensive.
Yeah.
So what's happened is the incomes haven't gone up as the price of
You
assets.
come out of school, not those jobs to pay those prices.
Right, and if you're paying for a student loan and having to get a job and make a decent living, it's very hard, you know. But I do believe, I've been talking about it for a few years, anytime things go rapidly increase in price, usually they come back to the mean. It's called coming back to the mean, the natural trend line of values.
Whoa! So
Everything is overpriced.
Yeah.
You know, now I just, you know, and I think the government for many years, 20, 30 years, has continued to what they do is they put more money into the system and it trickles down into the pockets of people and investors. And that's why you see asset prices and everything really expensive. But although the economy is improving in certain aspects, I feel really bad for the majority of America that's having a rough time, you know, with this new way of life where everything is so expensive, and it's quite frustrating for people at a young age to start off and make it.
I will say, to go off your point of to start off and make it, as young people could be doing it, or people middle-aged or older still trying to get their bootstraps on. I think the really cool thing is living in an economy like this or an environment like this is it pushes you beyond your means to go out and find a better pursuit of life, like the American dream. I think that's like what you did. Like you really got on your bootstraps and you were like, you know what? I'm gonna learn about financing.
But the problem is most people don't have a lot of enthusiasm today. They're defeated by the time they're in high school. They don't grow up with drive and determination. Very few people have that drive today. So I was one of the few people in my era as a young man, and a lot of people just want to, it's to each his own. You have to decide, hey, do I want to live? Do I want to be really successful? You have to sacrifice your life. Yeah, just like athletes. Look at these professional athletes that tried really hard for many years, or musicians. You look at the bands that started very young and then all of a sudden so there's an old saying, okay, that comes out that is, for some reason, people that work really hard seem to just get lucky.
Get lucky?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just get lucky. But that makes so much sense because you worked hard to get those reps, to get all those moments where you can get lucky.
Yes, by sacrificing your energy, your time, and effort towards a goal. There's no muscle more powerful nor talent more reliable than a shrewd, inquisitive, alert mind. But if you work hard in going in a direction in your dreams, you will meet with success in common hours. That was Wayne Dyer. He he wrote many books.
Oh, cool.
So if you really try hard at something, you know, you learn. You know, you eventually something good comes out of everything you do.
Wow.
But you're going to meet with certain disappointments in life, and that's just part of life. You try, and then all of a sudden, you know, something good comes out of everything you do when you make effort. I mean, at least that's my experience and my personal opinion.
Yeah, we gotta burn the boats at times. We just gotta get on our feet and just do it. Yeah. And I think, we're going forward. We're almost wrapping up over here. I want to say thank you for your patience, by the way. Really, it's been awesome.
I enjoy it. Thank you for this.
Yeah. 11 years ago, one of your videos showed you feeding your cows square food pellets called range pellets.
Yes.
How do they work?
So range pellets are more or less a training tool, and it's a means of molasses and food to give them this little bit of joy. So molasses is what most ranchers use to make the cows hungrier, so they eat more.
All right, cool.
So if there's grass out in the pasture,
yeah.
so I use them as a training tool, and also it gives them a little bit of energy. Molasses makes their stomach boil and burn and makes them kind of more or less think, oh, I need to eat more.
Right.
So you give them the molasses, and molasses is also in a large tub, or it's also in a little block. They sell them in big tubs, and then they lick them and they get the nutrition that they need, because in the wintertime, the grass has no nutrition in it, maybe 5% protein. So in the summertime, it has selenium, zinc, all the necessary nutrients, and it's about an average of 12 to 17% protein in the summertime.
Wow. So it gets their body churning.
Yeah, they have several stomachs and it kind of makes them hungry, but they also get the mineral and the nutrition they need to keep themselves healthy. And it's very important, because when a mom is producing, mom is eating for herself, she's feeding the baby milk that's on her side, and then she also has a baby in her womb, which requires a tremendous amount of energy.
Yeah.
35 pounds of organic matter per day and 8 to 12 gallons of water is what a cow drinks.
Holy guacamole. You're like an encyclopedia of just terminology on the ranch. That's crazy. I love how you're shooting out the gallons and all those words. Wow, man. That's
well, I guess I don't really think about those things, you know.
But it's so impressive, because people don't have that storehouse of knowledge that, like, because a lot of, like, and ladies and gentlemen, you may relate to this too, a lot of people nowadays kind of just use the same jargon, the same words on repetition, on and on and on. And like a lad like yourself, not only do you have the life of working on a cattle rancher, but also working as a mortgage broker, you get to open that repertoire so much. I think that it lends to your vocabulary too.
Well, thank you. I'm always glad to help.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And for hypothetical quantum possibilities, if you were to go back in time before you met your cows like Brutus, or you established Federated Mortgage, and you had 2 minutes with your 20-year-old self, what do you think you'd say?
Wow, that's a good question. I'd say I would have definitely made a lot of different decisions. I'm not really sure. That's a tough question. I would say you've got a really hard work ahead of you to gain the success that you desire.
Right.
So, but that, you know, that's, you know.
It's a hard question. Like, what would
And
you
the
say?
other thing is, the other thing people that I wanted to mention also is people, you know, don't, just remember, tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So you need to enjoy every day as if it were your last, with a balanced life.
With a balanced life, yeah. Like, how can you enjoy the most out of everything today, but making a balance at the same time?
So you need to learn how to enjoy everything that you do. Doing the dishes, cleaning out your closet, working. There's certain levels of satisfaction in everything that you do. Going out partying at night, that has 100% satisfaction. Going to dinner, riding your bicycle, certain things have joy. So you have to find joy in everything that you do.
Right.
And in everything that you do, that might be the...
oh yeah, you can feel free to take it.
That's okay. No, yeah. I don't know if it's recording or not.
Oh, there you go. I'll turn that off. We'll get you going. So, Mr. Todd, thank you very much for making it today.
Thank you.
It was an awesome blast to share your knowledge and just to learn more about this life, man. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Frank Stand. This is Todd Campbell, Chicken Noodle Soup. Man,
Thank you.